Welcome back. I did find the documentation, and here we see how to put the propellers on in this little book. The Typhoon book that comes with the unit. Getting quick start guide will tell you how to install the props. So when you're putting this bird back together, we can use this reference here. So the bird is facing front that way. We'll align this bird as is our manual. So there's the front of the bird, and there's the front in the manual. So front and front, just like this. Now we know these four motors here are good because we've tested the motors, we've tossed the other ones aside. We need an A motor here and a B motor here. We find a motor and find an A, we set it here. We find a B, we set it here. We find an A, we set it here. And what's left? We have a B, we set it here. We double check. This one's a B, correct. This one's an A, correct. This one should be a B, correct. This motor here should be an A. So now we don't want to move things around, and we're going to bolt these motors in. Each motor has a washer and a nut. There's 4 per motor, washer and nut. So we find the stout Allen wrench here. This is the stout one. And here we have washers, and we have motor nuts. These motor nuts, when you buy a new frame, they come probably 16 nuts in here. If you look closely, you're going to see they all have a little bit of Loctite on them. Loctite is a blue compound on the threads. The idea being when you torque these in, the Loctite will make the bolt lock in via the glue on the threads. And then the vibration of the motor won't walk out this bolt and make the motor loose. So Loctite is a good thing, and the UC manufacturer, Yuneec, they did put Loctite on here, so that was a very wise move on their part. So now we have our little cache of bolts over here. These are the ones, 16 bolts or more, that are going to go into the motors, and with the washers, we put the washer on top of each bolt. Put it back in. So let's start in an ordinal fashion. You want to look at the motor and figure out where the wiring is going to go. And the boards do fit in from the bottom ESC boards. You can see this ESC board fits in through here. So the motor, you want to bring the wire in through there. You want all the stuff for the ESC board close to the board. So it makes sense to bring the motor in through here, and the wires to the motor. So we're going to feed 3 wires down through that hole and get this motor installed. This is easier said than done. The wires sometimes want to go down the frame channel. There. Looks like this motor is installed. There are the wires, as you can see right there. So now the challenge is just getting this motor mounted with the 4 screws and the washer. There's a rubber grommet down there, and you've got to line the holes up. So if you can see the center bearing here, you want to make sure the center bearing is in the center of this open window, and it makes it easy to align it. You could also use this hex wrench to align the motor. You can put it down to the hole here and bring the motor away from the plane a little bit. See if you can get the hex wrench to go through a hole in the motor. Okay, there's one. So I'm in a threaded hole now, and you wiggle this thing around till it's steady, and that should be where the bolt will go through and be received by the base of the motor. So here I'm just assembling a washer onto a screw. There we are. So now we're going to take this this hex wrench out here and put the bolt in. This is really hard to do, and I think the last time I did this I had to use needle nose. So let me get some needle nose pliers out of the toolbox behind the camera. You always want to have props behind the camera, like a toolbox, right? Because the show's got to go on. So here we grasp this with the needle nose. There's some technique involved here. So I found the best way is to hold it like that. So you're kind of holding it at an angle, and it will slip out sometimes, but what I'm going to do is pre-insert this bolt. In fact, we should probably pre-insert them all. So insert the bolt in here, like that, and it's inserted. So let's do the other 3 of them for that motor. Put the washers on to get the bolts ready to go. There we go. And so all 4 motors are going to be the same. I don't think I'm going to torture you with watching me do 4 motors. We'll do just 1, and then we'll assume the others were done the same way, okay? So now we're going to put this thing on with needle nose again. Insert it in to the frame. Give it a push with our fingers. Okay, that one's in. So we're just putting these things in far enough that they'll contact the base of the motor. And threading it in there is a bit of a challenge. In fact, this can probably be done before you put the motor in. Get these bolts started might be the best way to do this without first plunking the motor in there. And off we go. Looks like I had these things all ready to go over here. So here's the 4th screw, 4 of 4, which we'll put in here. And we'll just jam it in here. Whoops, see? It fell out of my pliers and have to start over. Such is mechanics. And we'll go back in. Missed it again. So why do I keep missing this? Well, the motor wires are in the way, sort of. Could take the motor back out and try it. Plus, I can't really see in there very well, so I keep missing it. Anyway, this is probably one of the most tedious parts of this rebuild. Is putting these screws back in. It is tedious. So I'm going to line it up. Okay, I am hitting a wire here. That's the problem. So let's move the wires over. The problem is I just can't see anything, and the angle of this screw is very bad. Okay, there we are. Well, the motor just fell out, so out it goes. And so the way to do this is do it without the motors being in here. Okay, so all 4 screws are mounted, the motor's out, so let's not bother putting the motors in first. Now we're going to put this motor back into the copter. And so the ESC wires are here. I actually want to put the motor in through here. It's a big hole. And since these are coming in for the ESC, I'm going to put the motors in the same way. And why is that? Well, if you look at the ESC board here, you have these 3 holes that take the ABC wires of the motor, which are these wires. And you have these 2 wires for the DC current that are on this thing. So the board will go in like this. So yeah, So is it reasonable to go like that? These wires will be over here and the motor will come straight through. Yeah, so it's reasonable to put the motor right through here, the motor power wires for the 3 phases. Put them right through that big hole there. Again. So we have them, let's pull them through. Let's pull them all through. Yep, there they all are. And these motor wires are actually in a little sheath, which is nice. No, they're not. It was for the DC wires. There. So I grabbed each of these wires and got them through. Now, you want to look at the base here, and if you can see the base, the wires are coming down between these 2 screws, so it makes sense to, from the base, to put the motor in with this little hole facing the hole the wires are going through. So we'll just lay the motor down, base down, and get it in there. Now the motor's in there. So from last time I did this, I know that when one screw will contact the screw holes, the rest will follow. And this is a bit of a juggling act. So I'm looking now at this bearing to get it exactly centered. And this is a guessing game, but I'm trying to work one of these down and see if we get lucky here. Nothing yet. Did I get it? Nope. So what I'm going to do now is push the screw away in. And let's take a look at it. Okay, it's sticking out a ways, so it would contact the motor's base if we can line this motor up correctly. So how can I say this is a little tedious and not very forgiving. Somebody probably has a good way to do this, but I don't. I'm just going by sight and trial and error right now, trying to get it in there. You could probably take one of these off and use the wrench as a centering device. That seems like it might be going in. Nope. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull one of these out and see if we can use the wrench as a center. So I've just popped out one bolt. So where that bolt was, I'm going to put the Allen wrench in here. Actually, I'm going to use the small one, okay? We'll put the small wrench in as a centering device. And we'll try and lodge this into a hole that we can find in the motor. And I'm going to kind of look over here and say, okay, yeah, where's the hole? There it is. Bam, we found it. So now this wrench is lining up the motor with the hole in the grommet. And if that's true, we will have better luck getting one of these bolts in. So let's give it a try. Nope, no luck. Oh, wait a minute. I think it's working. Yes, it's working. So yes, we have one bolt in now into the motor base. Let's try the second one here below. Make sure there's no wires being caught under the bolt. So I can see there's a wire under the washer. We got the wire out now. We're clear to go. Let's get the second one tightened up. So that's a pretty good idea and method. Use a small Allen wrench to center the bolts. There, that went in easy. Now this one's lined up, right? Because there's two lined up, so the third one will follow. And then the fourth one will follow. So yes, these are all going in nicely. So we pull out the Allen wrench. we find our remaining fourth motor bolt. We put it into the into the needle nose pliers, and we're going to just shove it into the remaining fourth hole here, which is really hard to see. That's it. Give it a push with your finger at contact with the motor base, and now take it in with the hex wrench, the 2mm hex wrench. So that's good. These are all now tight. So this motor's in. You don't really want to over tighten these. Just snug them up. If they have Loctite on them, and if you over tighten them, you put stress on the plastic. I'm just going to use my finger, and that's it. That's it. That's enough. You'll feel them tighten up and snug, and that's it. You don't want to do too much. So I've gone through one tightening here on all of them. They're snug. I'll take one more time through. Small tightening. Small tightening. They should all feel the same tight. You'd probably want to use a little torque wrench on these things to get them right, but we don't have one. The torque wrench would show the, I guess, the Newton meter value, or it'd be not Newton meters, but probably Newton millimeter value or something. Millinewton millimeter value of the torque. So now we have these bolts are all in. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the washers. We have cables here showing which are good to go. So since we've done this and there's been some confusion, always double check your work. So put the bird down. Here's the front. Get your book out again and take a look at what motor you put on. Is it right? Because you don't want to get this out of whack here. Here's the book. I'm looking for the motors on the book. It was here somewhere. Here it is. Here's the front of the bird. This motor down here is an A motor. Yes. So it does match A motor with the front facing this way. This is an A motor. So that's correct. And now we're going to put the rest of the motors in the craft the same way. So I'm going to stop the video. I don't think you need to see this all again. Well, we could do it again, right? Why don't we do one more? See if it goes well. Did we learn something? Can we make it faster? So that motor here is a B motor. And this motor here is a B motor. So we've double checked our work, and we're not going to get the wrong motor in the wrong slot. And here we have wires for the ESC coming down this strut. So I'm thinking we want to put this ESC in. We bring the ESC over to take a look at how it goes. And the ESC is going to go in like this. So yes, it's reasonable to bring the motor wires down through there. So let's put them down right down through there. Because we have them all in one spot, let's make sure we got room to get these motor wires through here. This is a B motor. And the DC wire here is, let's give these a little tug to get some slack. So this negative DC current wire here for the power supply for the ESC is, okay, I tugged it a little bit. I'll tug this one to get some length out of it from the frame. That's all I'm going to get on those. So now here's a B motor. So we're going to put the wires in through here. So let's feed these wires down. This is a B motor. We've checked all the motors for trueness and they all spin well, so we're confident these will be suitable motors for this rebuild, and hopefully we're not going to crash anymore to wreck them again. So you don't want to keep doing this, right? Over and over and over. You'll lose patience. So now I want to use this wrench to align this motor again. So I'm going to put the wrench through here into the motor base and align it. Okay, now it's aligned.